Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome. Hi, Judy.
Hi,
Welcome
Catherine.
today. Welcome today to Real Women, Real Purpose Talk Show live in the On Purpose Woman Global Community Facebook group. I'm Catherine Yarbrough, your host today, and I'm one of the two hosts of the Real Women, Real Purpose Talk Show, a co-leader in the On Purpose Woman Global Community and the creator of the Manifesting Clients Academy. I'm here today with Judie Harvey. Hi again, Judy.
Hi,
It's
it's
great
so
to
great
see
to
you.
be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, for sure. Folks, we're going to be talking about everything you wanted to know about hiring an editor, but were afraid to ask. And as a person who has questions to ask, hopefully some of yours will get asked as well. And don't hesitate to ask your questions in the comments. If we don't get to them today, Judy will come back and she will answer them. So ask Judy. Judy is an award-winning editor, writer, and health educator. She brings passion and commitment to everything she does, whether it's editing a book, ghostwriting a blog, or writing marketing and social media for books, products, or wellness educators. She brings her creativity, her sense of humor, and integrity for every project. Now, I haven't personally worked with Judy, but I've known her for a bit, and I believe every single word of this. And I think you will too by the end of this interview.
Thank
If
you.
you absolutely, if you have something to say but don't know how to start, Judy will guide you through the writing and editing process so your unique message can be heard. So, Judy, I'm gonna pick your brain. All
Go
right.
for it, girlfriend.
So, first of all, I think it was your idea to call this something about everything you wanted to know about hiring an editor or afraid and are afraid to ask. Now, I have my questions that I would be afraid to ask an editor just because of my stuff, but I thought I'd start with the question, what have you found someone might be afraid to ask an editor?
Well, I think they're afraid to ask what the benefit really is in working with someone. They want sometimes to believe that they are such good writers on their own, and they've heard about what an editor can do, but they don't really know if it's worth the money. What would I do that they can't do? And so I think that would be the main question.
So there's a couple of things in what you just shared, which are part of my questions, which is it worth the money? So we're going to get to money down the road. I've got a question about money.
Sure.
And and then I am a pretty good writer. I'll be
Yes,
honest.
you
You know,
are.
it's amazing. I'm always thrilled. I send my articles to Jenny Robertson, and I guess you read my article in this month's magazine, and she's in like nine articles in the past year and a half or something like that. She's only giving me two suggestions, two or three, like so I know I'm doing a pretty good job and so I'm a pretty good writer. I'm not the best. I'm not great. There's a lot I could learn. I could put in more stories. I know I've got things to grow, but still, and I want to write a book and I want to write a book. Why should I hire an editor if I'm already pretty good? And the second question to that is, when should I do it? Before I've started, or do I do it after it's written? So I know those are a couple of questions. There's a lot in there. So talk to us. Tell us your
Okay.
wisdom.
So why would you want to work with me or any editor? Let's start first by explaining that there are a couple different kinds of editing. So the very most basic would be someone who just proofreads. In other words, they're just trying to find the egregious errors that stand out. You missed a period, you spelled something wrong. And that's what a proofreader does. They don't really look at the content. There's also something that's called a copy editor. A copy editor would go through and check all the facts. So a copy editor is going to go out and see, did that study that you put in your book to explain how to attract more clients, was that really the right study? Was it the best study? And even down to the, did you put all the information in there correctly? I can't tell you how many times I work with authors and they think they know the name of the person they want to refer to and then the name of their book. It's almost wrong every time. So fact checking, just to go and, go out on Amazon. Did they spell the author's name right? Is the subtitle right? Just things like that. And so that copy editor is going to be a lot more heavy handed with things in the sense of making sure it's accurate. And then also really fine tuning the grammar and the punctuation. Now there's also a line editor, and there's line editing, I should say. And line editing is when you go through sentence by sentence and you do corrections. So when I'm editing, I'm proofreading, I'm checking the copy for content, copy editing, and I'm doing line edits. So the line edits are, like I said, the specific changes into the words. And I'm also doing an organizational look. So for example, you want to write a book and you want to get these certain number of points across in your book. What order do you introduce them in? That's something I might help you with. How much detail do you need for them? So for example, one thing I really like about your articles in On Purpose Women magazine, you know your audience. And because you know your audience, you know the level of detail to get into with them. I've seen people who are excellent writers. There was an article I'd read one time, and it was about women and money. And it was actually in the On Purpose Women's magazine. And although it was perfect from a written standpoint, the punctuation, the grammar, everything flowed beautifully, it was at such a high level that I didn't think necessarily anyone in the On Purpose Women networking group would get a lot of benefit from that. Because knowing that audience, they've already worked on manifesting and all these like different layers, they need actually something much deeper. And so, and you think about it like this, I worked for a doctor for a while who was just, her research and everything was just impeccable. She was asked to write a story for Parade magazine. Okay.
Okay. Oh
And so
my.
she turns over to them this very detail oriented, all the studies, and it's accurate and it's beautifully written, but it's not going to make, and in fact, it required a full rewrite, a complete rewrite. And that's nothing against Parade magazine. It's knowing who your audience is and getting specific with that. And so it's no different with writing a book than it is with marketing, in the sense of who is your key audience and how do you best approach them. So now when I'm looking at your work also, one of the things that I really get upset with when I'm reading is when someone takes me out of the dream state. So I'm reading along and I'm like, what's this? Either like the sentence doesn't make sense, or, I'm literally shaking my head, because I read all the time, obviously. And I don't like that. I want to be pulled in with the message and carried all the way through. I don't want to have to stop and ask myself a question, or what did they mean by that? And then I also notice sometimes people get bogged down in their example.
Mhm.
And I know we're going to talk about this in a minute, but one of the things that an editor is going to do is show you how to embellish your work by what you can pull out. And so, for example, let's say you have 5 points that you want to make on a topic. One of those points you spend, I don't know, 5 or 6 pages on, and the other ones you're only spending a page on. This chances are
I could see me do that. I mean, that
everybody
doesn't,
does that.
because there's
Everybody
certain
does
things
that.
that I know more, or I just have more words for, or whatever, and others I just know it's important, so I have to point to it. But when you
Correct.
that,
So working with
mhm.
an editor, you're using them as a sounding board. I want to get these main things across, but where do I get bogged down? And so a lot of times the answer to that is to pull out copy and create a box. We call it a box. You've seen this when you read not fiction, but for health related and self-help kind of books. There might be an exercise that's pulled out, or you're talking about this person, for example, who was a guru for you and all the things that you learned from them, but it's a tangent in a way. It's important, but it's a tangent. So I help you pull that out, becomes a box, so it's ancillary and supporting it. In other words, I show you where the tangents are so that your reader isn't taken out of the dream state.
Oh, interesting. I
Yes.
appreciate this term, the dream state. And, I've recently, I'll tell you the truth, Judy, for years, I read a lot. I read self-help and I read novels, and I love to read. And then somewhere in the last 5 to 10 years, I got on Netflix and I stopped reading as much. And part of it was that I have done a lot of personal growth, and I used to read personal growth books because I needed help. And so
Sure.
I sought after answers, and I got a lot of answers through that and other things. So anyway, I don't feel the same urge. But I've also run across books that aren't well written. And recently I just bought 2 books because of this interview series, and thank God they're well written. And part of it is what you're talking to. I've never heard
Okay.
that phrase, that keep the reader in the dream state,
That's because
because
I
there's
made it
something,
up. It's
yeah,
my
it makes sense, Judy, because because what I know, that experience of reading and going, oh, what just happened. So I appreciate all the wisdom that you're sharing. So let me just come back here to this question, because I want to make sure we get it
and I'm
answered.
not sure I answered all of your questions. I started talking myself and I went off on a tangent. I need my own box today.
You're great. But okay, so if a person like me is a pretty good writer and we want to write a book, should I or that person hire an editor first before they write it, or after they write it? Do you have an opinion about that, or advice for
Yes.
that?
So, there's different things you can do. Okay. So let's say you're a good writer. In other words, your writing is clear, your grammar and sentence structure is varied, but it's accurate. You maybe don't know what you want to really cover yet. Then I get involved as sort of an editorial coach. And we talk about your general outline, which can change as you get into it, what you're going to cover, what you're going to explain, and in what order. And as someone, one thing, Catherine, I would also say, we haven't said this yet, I have a specialty and I work with certain people. So I see that material over and over again. So if I was going to write my book, which would be nonfiction, I wouldn't work with somebody who specializes in fiction. I would want to work with an editor who actually specializes in my field, because she or he has seen enough of these things to know what's trite, what's interesting, whatever. So if you're having trouble starting,
So what is your specialty?
my specialty is in nonfiction wellness books, whether that is health for the layperson. Specifically, I have a specialty in women's health, from your period past menopause, because I worked for a thought leader in that area for quite some time. And I also work on relationships, I've worked with lots of coaches, spiritual teachers. So that's my area. It's that what you used to call self-help or new
Right.
age kind of thing. That's my specialty. And
So if I was writing a
so
novel, you're not my person.
not at all. And if you're
Okay.
writing
All
a
right.
memoir, you're not my person. If if you want to do what I call the diary or, your journal, I'm not your person. I'm working with a client right now who's telling a story. She, out of the blue, had this horrible headache and ended up with this cancer diagnosis. And it was just this whole story about it turned out not to be accurate, but what she had to do, and she was paralyzed from it. She had brain surgery. I mean, it was really involved. And so I told her, I will not work with you if you're just going to tell my diary kind of story. I want it there to be lessons in here. And I went back and I had her write the back cover. If I'm picking up this book and I'm in a bookstore, which doesn't happen all that often, but you're reading the blurb on Amazon or whatever, what is the reader gonna get out of this? So let's take this back to you. If you know exactly what you're wanting to do and you have a good idea of what order it's gonna come in, then I would hire me later to do, after some of the writing is done, to give an overall assessment, and we could do a book doctor at that point, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. But if you're not really sure how to get started, or you're not sure in what order, and you're not sure about the outline, or you're not sure how to make this an interactive thing, if that's what you want. Some people just want the book to be something someone sits down and reads. You might, with your job, your career, you may want to put some exercises in or things that make it more of an interactive experience. Okay, I want you to stop now and write your elevator speech, whatever. I don't know what you're writing about, but that would be a good reason to get me involved in the beginning. So then the book doctor,
So now the book doctor is if I've written something, I've got some stuff down, and
yes,
now I've done that, and I want to hire you. You
correct.
have this is book doctor is like a package thing that you offer.
Well, let me tell you what it is, and
Okay.
it's a flat fee kind of thing that I offer. And so what I would do with your work, Catherine, is I would look at it from the micro level, which is what we've been talking about. How is it organized? Are you introducing the information in the right order and in the right
I thought
level
that
of
was
detail?
macro. I thought
That's
that was the
macro.
mac.
Did I say
Oh, okay.
micro?
You
Macro.
did.
I might have
Okay.
said micro. I didn't mean that. I meant from the big picture, right?
Okay.
Which is
Okay.
what we were just talking about. And you're going into too much detail here, not enough detail there. I know you want to tell more detail. Instead of putting it all up front, let's separate it into a chapter, that kind of thing. Micro is about the technical aspects of it, the nuts and bolts. I'm working with a client right now who's very passive in what the tests were ordered, instead of the doctor ordered that's probably not the best example, but and then she does this other little thing anyway, I would identify little things like, this is, I need an active tense here. Your tenses aren't matching. Your grammar is off in that sense. Fix this. There's too many, or sometimes people use, she said her husband was deliciously making dinner. And all I could picture, I know this is terrible, was this really handsome guy in an apron and nothing else making dinner. And what she was trying to say was that the dinner he would make these delicious dinners. So micro is like, are the adjectives in the right place, or what are you describing? And then of course grammar, punctuation, spelling. Micro is also, do you vary your sentences up enough? Because sometimes people have noun, verb, adjective, noun, and it has to be a little more lyrical and flowy than that. So that's what the book doctor is. It's a look at it from the micro, from the big picture. I'm sorry, I did it again. The big picture and the little picture. The overall, what are you trying to say, and how is your technical?
So do you
piece.
go into specifics with all the editing,
Yes.
or you do just an overview? You do a lot of passive. Do you know what I'm saying? Or do you go sentence by
Yes. So
sentence?
so what I'll do is I'll make an agreement. Like I'll look at everything in general. Like let's say you send me 3 chapters, right? Because sometimes you don't have the whole book. You just want a general idea. How am I doing? Where am I going with this? You've got your introduction, maybe your first, whatever. And so we're going to look at that big picture. I think I forgot your question, but
So I'm specifically asking, I know you've got this book doctor
yes. So with the book
thing that you
doctor,
do.
yes, I'm sorry. So I will look at everything in total, whatever you send me, and then I'll agree to mark up using the red lines in Word, with using the review function in Word. I'll mark it up for you and I'll leave some comments in there. Passive tense, let's start with this. Here's an example of what I mean where your grammar is passive, whatever. And then I actually come up with a list of things, like almost like a checklist. Your subheadings are good, your transitions are good from section to section, chapter to chapter. You're not taking the reader out of the dream state, all of those things. And then I give you that evaluation. We talk about it. So I give you specifics and then general. And then whatever you want to do from there, we would, you need more explanation, fine. So it's usually, a couple of hours of my time, maybe 3 hours looking at your material, and another
Mhm.
hour talking to you about what I found and what I would suggest.
Mhm. And so I know we talked about before we got on that you wanted to do a special offer for people listening to this interview.
Yes, yes. So normally I charge $500 for that.
Okay.
And since I love all these writers and being around so many creative people, and I'm excited, I'm the editorial midwife, so I'm like excited to help you birth your book. So if you need your birth doctor appointment or birth midwife appointment, and maybe that's what I should call it, the birth midwife appointment, I will be offering that for $350. And today's July 15th, it'll be good till August the 15th.
Okay. And so if they were interested in doing that, because that's a wonderful offer, Judy. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for offering that to
Thank
our On
you.
Purpose Woman community. If they were interested, what should they do to take advantage of it?
They can either contact me through Facebook. A lot of folks are online and they can see me on Facebook because I'm part of the OPW Facebook group. Or my email is judieharvey@gmail.com, JUDIEHARVEY@gmail.com. And you can
Okay.
just contact me that way and just ask. You can ask about it and, just ask some questions. You're not interested, that's fine. Um,
Well, I can
you know,
imagine if I had more written down and if I didn't have an editor, I would definitely be very interested in this because it's a great opportunity. Because I'm now getting at how helpful an editor is. Thank
yes.
you so much. So,
Oh, you're very
listeners,
welcome.
Judy Harvey at gmail.com, JUDIEHARVEY at gmail.com. Please reach out to Judy, Judy Harvey at gmail.com, JUDIEHARVEY at gmail.com. I like to repeat it because you know what? They do it on those commercials. So there must be some reason why we
There
do
is.
it.
And we need a jingle. Then everybody will remember it.
Yeah. And
But
tell her,
the
I'm
one
sorry,
thing I wanted to go ahead.
1 second. And when you reach out to Judy, tell her you're part of the On Purpose Woman community and you want to take advantage of her special offer for the book doctor review and appointment. So be sure you indicate that and she'll remember this. So yeah, so I didn't mean to interrupt you. There's so much to talk about. We only have a few more minutes. What else did you want to say there, Judy?
Well, what I wanted to say was even though there's line editing and copy editing and proofreading and the book doctor, I can't help but look at things in those both ways. So I sort of have I have an analytical brain and I have a creative brain. So I'm always looking at how the pieces are being fit together, as well as the nuts and bolts. And so if you're going to hire someone, you really want something like that. And then the other thing is, oh, so many people I've worked with that get the book to print and then they have to market it. So I don't stop. I'm not like compartmentalized where I'm only looking at your typos. I'm kind of thinking about it from, the creation process all the way through to the marketing process and how it's going to go from there. So those are some things that you get with an experienced editor that in my opinion bring a value to your project. Like I said in the beginning, I would never do my own work without somebody who is really good, because I don't know what I don't know. I don't know where I'm taking the reader out of the dream state. I don't know where it's getting bogged down, even though I'm a good writer. And a lot of that sometimes, Catherine, is I think we get really attached to something. Oh, that's the best sentence I ever wrote. I don't want to get rid of that sentence, even though I know it doesn't fit here, And and it's not even about ego. It's like, but it's the perfect sentence. What am I going to do? If I take this out, I got to start. You're laughing because you know what I'm talking about. And sometimes you just need someone to say, yeah, I know, but let's do this. And then you'll feel whole. You still got a good thing coming out of it. The writing is still good. The message is still super clear. And that's the whole point, that message. You want to make sure that message is crystal clear and for that specific person or people that you're shooting for.
So we've talked a lot today, Judie, for people who actually do already know a bit about writing and have some
Yes.
experience, but I'm sure that there are people out there in our community who have a message and
Yes.
are not experienced writers. Now, they may even think of themselves as a bad writer. So I
Yes.
have a question about that, which is if someone has a message to share and they aren't experienced or even know that they're not a good writer, would you recommend that they try to write their book or their blog or their article by themselves and then hire someone like you? Or should they hire a ghostwriter? Or should they record it? Because some people can talk and then have it transcribed. Do you have advice for people who are not good at writing?
If you're not good at writing, I think you should have a ghostwriter. I think just because that takes the pressure off of you, you can focus on your message and what you want to communicate.
How does it
So
work? How does a
wait,
ghostwriter work?
let me answer another question before I will
So
answer
many
that.
questions.
I know, wow, this is exciting. So, um, well, okay, I'll answer your other question. How does a ghostwriter work? Basically, you're going to meet with me, you're going to talk with me, you're going to give me your ideas. You're going to send me, I like this article, I like this thing, I want to pull this together. And I'm going to help you make sense of all of that in the writing. So it's your ideas. A ghostwriter is, I'm actually writing for you. I'm using your language. And so when we start to work together, you have to tell me, I don't use words that big, or, beef up your, so it sounds like you in the end. You were asking me a question about should they just record it? Yes and no. I recently got a book and the person had transcribed, I don't know, 10, 20 podcasts that they did. And it was just this gigantic document of transcribed podcasts. Author didn't tell me that. So I'm reading this thing and I'm reading it and I'm like, gosh, this seems like it was a recorded, I didn't use the word podcast, but it was a recording. And part of it was because there was similar lesson in these, and she kept coming back to the same lesson, which we only really needed to hear one time, not throughout every single chapter, because either you covered it or you didn't. But when you speak, it's different from when you write. And so this person had she had a style that was kind of like, I would almost say, and I don't mean this in an insulting way, but like an evangelical preacher, where she would repeat it and repeat it again and repeat it again. You're bringing in, or Baptist, whatever. I'm not trying to get into a religion thing here, but
Right.
An orator is different than, when you're reading something. And if it reads like a podcast, it might not be very digestible for the reader. So I don't know if I answered your question. Sometimes you can,
Well,
like I've worked with people where they'll send me a transcription and say, okay, this is what I want to do to chapter 2. Here's all my ideas. This is what, blah. And sometimes I use some of their language because it's good, but then I kind
right.
of write for them at the same time.
Mhm. Okay. So I could imagine if I was a ghostwriter, it would be nice to hear the person speak a bit, and so you get into their language, into how they speak, and to
Their
turn that
cadence,
into,
yes.
yeah, and then you can turn that more easily into written word. But I hear from you that it's not, that it's definitely it's almost like a translation from one language to another, or in some cases.
It can be. And then,
Mhm.
sometimes there's a little bit of a back and forth project. So, or back and forth until you get it, until you get that voice, till you get that
Mhm.
cadence and everything. Um, and sometimes I get it wrong. I had a client recently tell me, I don't even know what that word means. I used the word comport. And she said, I don't even know what that means. And I thought, okay, I haven't learned her voice yet.
Mhm.
So, and that's on me as the ghostwriter, but it's on the
Mhm.
author too to educate me, because I'm a fast learner and I'm not going to use that word a second time. If she wants
Mhm.
it more simple language, then that's what I'll give her.
Mhm. Mhm. Wow. Okay. This has just been so wonderful, Judy. I'm just hesitant to end this thing, but let me just make sure there aren't any other questions that I just
Okay.
have to know. Um, well, let me say this. I know you've got that great offer, the book doctor opportunity. So if anyone didn't hear this in the beginning, if you've got a book or you've started a book and you would like Judy to review it, to give you both big picture and detail a review, she's doing a special opportunity for us on Purpose Women. If you reach out to her at judieharvey@gmail.com between now and August 15th, instead of $500, this book doctor review and appointment with her is only $350. So definitely take advantage of that. But if
So,
someone,
Catherine, there's one other thing I wanted to tell you. So, back to you being a fabulous writer, and you've put your whole book together, right? And now you
oh,
want to hire an editor. Here's what I do for you. I look at your subheads. Are they clever? Are they all flown?
mhm,
I look at all the tech to take it to the next level. Is there a quote maybe we want to add at the beginning of each because it fits? Is there an exercise we want to add? Are there additional, I think you should give us a little bit more information about this teacher that was, instrumental in you learning your thing. And so I elevate that. I make it even more, you know,
mhm,
just more layers to it. And that's a final read through where you can get, so, I'm not changing things in, I'm not saying, oh no, you have to really completely rewrite chapter 2, which means you got to rewrite all the rest of it. No. So it's taking your writing to the next level with somebody who's worked with a lot of books and done a lot of reading and would know how to just make it that much sweeter.
so if someone's ready for that, that's what they could get out of that book doctor appointment.
Well, no, that would be someone who's a good writer who wants to hire an editor at the end.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
what they would get. The book doctor is good for beginning. And then
Okay.
an editor, like you're a great writer, you do it yourself, hiring someone to do what I call a final read through to elevate it at the end. That would be another op. So we've got a lot of good writers in this group. That might be something more attractive to them. Or they might want to get started and then they might want somebody to come in at the end and do the final cleanup, so to speak.
Okay.
But not
Okay.
just find the typos, because anybody can find your typos, and we have software for that, but it's really to take it to the next level. Yeah.
So if someone was interested in working with you or finding out what you could do for them, and it's something that we've talked about or something that we haven't talked about, is the best thing to do for them to email you at
Yes.
judieharvey@gmail.com and just
Yes.
ask you, get on the phone with them? Is that what would
Yeah.
happen?
I mean, I give you an hour of my time for free. I'm lonely with COVID. What can I say? No, I just, I always give a little time because,
To
it
have that
might be
conversation?
that you like me, but you don't think you're going to work well with me. That's fine. Find somebody that's going to really resonate with you, your message, what you're trying to do. And so, just to take it from there. I think it's a very personal experience. I mean, it's literally like people feel like it's their baby, it's
I
their
know.
life work and they're trying to get it out. And so you really do need to have a companion. And that's really what the editor is. And even though I'm good, I may not be good for you.
And you might be.
And I might be.
Yeah.
I might be the best person for you. And you might want to interview a few people and find out what each of them would offer for you, because and then looking at your work, like with the book doctor, they might give you completely different suggestions, and you can take them all. Take some.
Mhm. Well, thank you so much,
You're
Judie.
welcome.
Friends, yes, friends, those of you who are listening here live, please ask questions. Type in the comments what you got out of this experience listening to Judie and all of her wisdom. If you're watching the replay, type in the comments what you got out of this experience. Let us know what you appreciated about hearing everything that Judie has to say. And if you have a question, ask it. Because if you have a question, other people have a question
Don't
too.
be afraid to ask. That's how we
That's right.
started.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Anything you want to know from an editor, Judie will answer that question. So everyone, thank you so much for joining us today for this Real Women, Real Purpose talk show live in the On Purpose Woman Global Community Facebook group. Tomorrow, Jenny Robertson is interviewing Mary Petrucci at 2 p.m. and the topic is 3 simple healing principles. On this coming Monday, yeah, it sounds good. On Monday at 4 Eastern time, I'll be talking with Ann Coverdale about tools for truly living. For a list of all the July and August Real Women, Real Purpose talk show topics, go to our magazine, the current issue of On Purpose Woman magazine. Go to onpurposewomanmagazine.com and check out the listing of all of our talk shows, and you'll see what's coming up and what we've already covered and done. And you'll be able to see those replays in our YouTube channel. So if you like this interview and you want to hear again everything that Judie had to say, or you've got a friend who's a writer and you think they need to hear what Judie has to say, within 48 hours, the link, the recording of this will be up on our YouTube channel. So go to YouTube right now, type in On Purpose Woman Global Community and sign up, subscribe, get the notifications, whatever it is you need to do to make sure that you will be notified when this interview is up and any of our future ones. So you can watch it and share it with your friends. Thanks, Judie. Thanks, everyone. It was really great to be here with you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this so much, Catherine.
It was my pleasure. Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.